thank you to our sponsors, K. Flynn Insurance, elect Bruce Becker for the Lincoln County Fire Board, and the Crafty Midwestern Mommy for their continued support of the Lincoln County Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to Lincoln County Podcast. We're super happy to have you back. Make sure you like and follow the podcast. Also subscribe on YouTube. That helps us get a lot more views, and we definitely appreciate it. Check out all of our great sponsors. We've got a new round coming up here soon. You'll be seeing a lot of new faces and everything popping up that are supporting what we've got going out here in Lincoln County. So as always, I have an amazing guest today, and I'm super excited to turn everything over to him and introduce himself and let you guys really learn some great things going on in our great county. How are you today?
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me out here. I'm Ray Antonacci. I'm the chief at Lincoln County Ambulance.
How long have you been doing that?
So I've been at Lincoln County Ambulance since 2014. I've been in EMS, though, as a paramedic since 92.
92?
Yeah.
Wow. What kind of got you into that?
Well, you know, it's funny. I started out, I got a degree in advertising.
Really?
And from Southeast Missouri. And I wanted to be an ad guy. And I was looking for a job at hospitals in the marketing departments.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have any experience in healthcare. So I thought, well, maybe I'll take an EMT class and, get a little healthcare experience and then go back.
For the ads. Yeah. Okay. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Research. Yeah.
So I took an EMT class and I was like, oh my man, this I'm really good at this. I like this.
Yeah.
And I took that EMT class, and then I took a paramedic class, and I left my ad job and went into paramedicine in 92.
Wow, that's really cool. See, I think that speaks to a lot of people too with, I think people assume when they see someone that's had a career for a while that, well, they picked it and that's what they wanted to do and that was always their goal. And I don't think they realize that for a lot of people, there's always like a big curve. You know, like you didn't see that coming at all. I had a friend of mine that after the military went into being a medic and realized how much he liked it. And last we talked, he had went back to school to be a doctor.
Yeah.
He just absolutely loved everything about it. How long have you been out here? 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been before 14 because I actually think back then, it was when I first opened the Taekwondo school. His name was Aaron. He was in Lincoln County for a while. And then probably 2012-ish, I think went back to school. But he just fell in love with it and it was not what he expected. Like he knew he was gonna, do it and it was, a career and he wanted to do it, but he just loved the medical part of it so much.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too. I just kind of fell in love with that, and something weird like for, just for the kids, I wasn't very good in algebra. My math skills were really not very good. And then I got into paramedic school and started learning, how algebra works in medication calculations. And then I became really good at it. And I just saw the application. Sometimes you're in school, in high school and that, and you're just like, you don't really see a reason. Why do I need algebra? Why do I need to do this? But yeah, so then you just see, wow, I really fell in love with medicine.
Yeah.
And then found that this is why you need algebra.
Well, and I think it comes to with finding a way to apply it.
Yes.
So like my wife and I were just having that discussion today because my son got a C on math and I'm like, it gets it from me. Whereas she did really well in math. For me, it didn't do anything. But then once I got into business where I had so many numbers, percentages, just so much to deal with, then all of a sudden it became passionate to me because I realized how much I needed it. I'm really good at that style of stuff now.
Right.
I still can't do algebra really well, but when it comes to my numbers for, I've got this much paint going, this much labor percentages, like that stuff just makes total sense to me. But it's finding something that how it relates to you.
No, exactly.
And I always try to do that when teaching with martial arts, like how can I relate it? Or when I started working with my speaking coach, it was very similar to stuff I do in martial arts. And that helped me. Like I would relate it to myself that way. Right. So that's huge. You got into it, you love that. So now then the math probably wasn't even hard for you to pick up at that point, was it?
No, it wasn't. Because, then it just made sense why we were doing it. And it's the same in my job now as the chief. I have to look at a lot of statistics and that. And I didn't take a stats class in college.
Yeah.
But that really is something that I work with a lot now.
Oh, and I bet it's a huge part of it going from just the medical background to being the chief, having to do so much of that, it's just because you're passionate about it, because your experiences with it, it's just going to fall in there for you. Like it was already there. It's just getting it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the medicine part of it. And I love working with the paramedics and EMTs now. Just kind of, that's my job, is to get them what they need to do their job.
For sure.
And what we do is we look at the entire county, and we see trends in population growth and trends in how our call volume comes out and what kind of calls we get. And we trend all that stuff and try to figure out what's the best way to provide service for Lincoln County residents.
Now, how many people, medics, staff, everything kind of all together, how many do you have?
So we have 50 full-time people. That includes 6 staff people that are in the office. So there's about 45 people on the street, and then each shift has 15 people, and that includes a battalion chief in what we call a buggy or a staff vehicle, and then we have about 40 part-time people that fill in for those people that are on vacation or sick time or something like that. So just about 90 people.
That's crazy. You have to have 40 part-timers filling in for that type of stuff. That's a lot.
It is a lot. And sometimes you get, maybe 5 or 10 of the guys that are the full-time or the part-timers that work a lot.
All the time. Yeah,
and
for sure.
Then probably 30 that don't do as much.
Yeah, that's a problem we run into with construction trades is, you might have 12 people, but you really only need 10, but you got to keep those other 2 busy, and you almost lose money on some projects because you throw them over there, but you need them in case someone's sick, has a family, has some family emergency. Like It's really wild, that balance. That's why you said 40 part-timers to fill. So I'm like, whew, that's a full-time job in itself, just the logistics of putting all those people together.
Yeah. And just giving them each enough time.
Yes, for sure.
Because they all put in availability. We have an electronic scheduler, and then they put in their time and then plugging them into different spots. And it's kind of a numbers game,
Oh, I can't even imagine that. Like a friend of mine recently, his contractor business up to 60 employees, and I wanted to just stop my car and throw up out the window, thinking of trying to schedule, and the amount of call volume of things coming up with that many people, just oof, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But that's great that we have that many people in and around to keep those spots full. It's not one of those things where we're like, oh, really need 10 more people.
Right. And that's just it is, since I started in 14, over the last 10 years, we've grown from about 5,000 calls to over 9,000 calls. And we've added two more ambulances. So we went from 5 to 7 ambulances. We've added bases. We've got a new base in Moscow Mills that we just opened.
Beautiful.
And we're going to build another base, probably breaking ground this year, off of Highway 47 near Highway W.
Okay.
Which is going to be what we're going to call Base 6. And we have a truck that's over there right now, and it's saving lives already. It's going out on stroke calls and cardiac arrest calls that really from Winfield or from Troy to get to Highway W is a 15, 20-minute drive.
Yeah.
And having them right there, it's saving lives.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about. So now how, you said you've added ambulances, we're adding new, you guys are building out new buildings. Where does the funding from that stuff come from? And how much does some of that stuff cost? I think people would be interested to know.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a general revenue, and then we also have a bond. And bonds are basically debt service. It's like a loan. And the citizens of Lincoln County voted to give us a bond, and that allows us to buy what we call capital or equipment. So we can buy equipment. It was an $11.5 million bond back in 2020. And we buy ambulances, build buildings, our bases, and that's all what comes out of that bond.
So those bonds are specifically allocated for certain things.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. We have a capital plan, a 10-year capital plan that basically we plug all that in, and that's how we spend that bond money is on that stuff. Just for reference, an ambulance, a brand new ambulance, is about $230,000,
Wow.
and that's empty. Then we start loading that ambulance up, and we get to about $300,000 to $350,000.
I would say I thought the
equipment.
two something sounded pretty low. I'm like, wow, I was expecting a lot more than that, but loaded that's where the cost really jumps, huh?
Right.
With
So,
equipment and everything.
yeah, something as simple as like the cardiac monitor, the defibrillator that you see on TV, that's a $45,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah, I remember seeing some stuff about that when they were getting doing some things to put them in schools and put those places. How much those mobile units or whatever they have, those things are very expensive.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. I don't remember what the deal was, but they were working on putting those in schools.
Yeah, the AEDs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the automatic defibrillators, the automated defibrillators, those are probably $2,000, $1,500 to $2,000.
Wow.
And I carry one actually in my staff car, an AED, because it's just less expensive. And I don't need a full monitor like the ambulance does. But yeah, so it's pretty expensive stuff. And then you put the paramedics on board, and the cost of these highly trained medics that have gone through 2 years of EMT and paramedic school to get to where they're at. And then many of them we're putting through critical care class now. So we have a critical care program so that we can move patients from a Mercy hospital that are on ventilators or specific drips and different kind of medications. So our people are trained up to that critical care level. They can also do different things in the field because of their critical care status. So
now you had said 5,000 to 9,000 calls. Was that, I meant to ask earlier, was that a day or
a
week or a month? How is that?
Yeah, so that's a year.
That's a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So over 9,000 calls a year.
Okay.
Which is a lot of calls. It comes
to
to about,
for sure. That's
about
crazy.
22, 23 calls a day in a 24-hour period.
Almost an hour.
Our medics, our medics work 48-hour shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in, they work a full 48. The whole crew of 7 ambulances run about 25 calls, on average for each day. So about 50 calls in a shift.
Wow.
And then they go home the next morning. Sometimes they get to sleep.
Yeah. Sometimes it's probably very generous.
Sometimes they get to sleep. They all have, beds and, quarters that they can, they have a room. They have, everything that it takes, like a kitchen and a living room. And it's basically a house that they live together for 48 hours. And we monitor their fatigue. We have these timeout things where if you and I are running calls together and we get to a point where we're just, over that 24-hour period and we're still running, we haven't slept, we can call timeout. And then we give them like 4 hours.
Awesome. I always wondered how that worked when they're doing those shifts. I work with the martial arts, where a lot of police officers, firefighters, medics, a lot of people will do that stuff because of the shifts, and then also have martial arts schools or they compete. It seems to be very tied together. And I've always kind of wondered that when they're doing these 48s and stuff, how that worked. So that's interesting. They do have a timeout where if it just gets to be too much, they can take a break.
Anybody can call timeout. So if I'm just dead and you're like, I'm good. If I call timeout, we both go. We're both on timeout. It's really hard sometimes, to tell them, hey, go to bed.
Yeah.
Put your phone away.
Because the timeout, you need to go sleep for sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. That's a great thing though, to have something like that in place, because I could only imagine. I could not do the 48-hour shifts like that. That takes a special person, in my opinion, just to do the job in general of being the one that when there is an emergency runs into that.
Yeah.
That's great. And it's one of those things I think most citizens, most people would agree on, that we're happy that you guys are there and there's that many people and it's staffed well and that they're growing and adding, because I think some people forget too how widespread Lincoln County is. So like, where all do you guys cover?
Yeah.
Like how far does that go, like city wise? Because I find myself using the term Lincoln County, and in my brain I'm thinking Troy.
Right.
We were doing some emailing recently with the school districts, and I kept saying Lincoln County, and I was like, wait, hold on, just Troy. I was like, we can't go all out in Lincoln County. Let's start in Troy, because it's how my brain works. And I think a lot of people's, if they live in Winfield, they might think Lincoln County's Winfield. They might not. How far out do you guys go?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So Lincoln County is 630 square miles of land. I think another 10 square miles of water. But we cover the entire county. So we have ambulance bases in Troy. So we have our headquarters is in Troy. Mm-hmm. We have one in Moscow Mills that are brand new. Then we have one over in Winfield. Uh-huh. So we go down 47 to Winfield.
Yep.
Like I said earlier, we have one that's going to be built halfway down 47 at Highway W. So that's our base 6. Base 4 is our Winfield base in Winfield. We have a base called base 3 up in Ellsbury.
Okay.
And we have a base 5 over in Silex.
Okay. I was gonna say, I thought I passed one in Silex when I go out there for bids.
Yeah. So that's 6 bases, 7 ambulances. We run 2 ambulances out of Troy. So we go all the way up to Pike County line. Uh-huh. We cover with the Ellsbury and the Silex truck, or we call it Auburn Crossing. Mm-hmm. It's not quite in Silex, but yeah,
that's a lot of square miles. That's a lot of space spread out to be covering.
Yeah, and when you look at some of the population, is a lot of the population's all kind of packed in the Troy, Moscow Mills area. So when you start talking about running an ambulance out into the Silex area and out towards Hawk Point, and there's a lot of land out that area.
There's a lot of distance to cover.
A lot of distance.
Yeah, even if there's not a huge population, I mean, it's a haul to get from one thing to another. So even though it is right there at Silex, I mean, it's still got a good ways to go.
Right.
Because of how far out that. Just in general, I find when out doing bids on jobs, I'll have one that's in Ellsbury, one that's in Silex or something, and we'll throw them on the schedule kind of close together, and it may be quite a drive from one to the other.
Yeah.
Depending on where I'm going and how far right or left in the county I'm at with those, it could be quite the haul. There'll be days to where I don't really go that far in my brain, but I'm an hour between every job with, I might run into St. Charles County, but it might be all the way at the river.
Right.
And then I may, there's times where I have to just cross O'Fallon in St. Charles County. It might take me 30 minutes to get from one bid to a next. And then out here might be it's a good little haul sometimes to cover that much land.
Yeah, definitely. And we do a thing called time on task, which kind of shows us how busy an ambulance is. And the Troy ambulance or the Moscow Mills ambulance might have a little bit shorter response or transport time. So they might get to a call a little bit faster. They might get to Mercy Lincoln or down to St. Joe's West a little bit faster. And they can turn a call over in an hour or a little less than an hour. But those trucks out in Ellsbury or Silex, they have call times of 2 to 3 hours.
I bet just with the time from there out to the hospital.
Right.
It's
by the time they get the call, they get, 20, 25 minutes to the call. They get there, they spend another 25 minutes or so in the house. Then, sometimes 45 minutes to an hour if they're going to go into the city or something like that with like a trauma. Like sometimes we have to bring traumas down to Mercy Hospital in St. Louis. So
that's a good haul.
Yeah. So those guys, they have a lot of windshield time.
Yeah, I bet. That's something I think too people have to kind of account for is having all those out there. But if you've got one and they're on a 2.5 hour call, like that's a gamble because something else could happen.
Right, something else could happen. Not only that, but think about it. I'm really proud of the medics at Lincoln County.
Yeah,
because that's that's like 2 hours with a patient, or
Oh,
you know,
for
an
sure.
hour with a patient that could be critical. And they go through different protocols and algorithms, and then they see how their treatment is affecting their patient. Then they have to redo it, reassess, and then reassess. And keeping somebody alive, or you know, really keeping somebody thriving, and maybe even getting better, is a skill.
Oh, for sure. And to have them that long of a time.
To have them that long, right? It's not like city. Where I started was at Christian Hospital in North County,
Oh,
and our transport times were really fast.
I was at Hazelwood East just Saturday,
Oh, really?
just over there for a tournament.
Yeah, yeah. I lived in North County for a long time, and I lived in Florissant and worked at Christian Hospital, and we ran our butts off. We ran a lot of calls, but we had real short transport
Yeah.
times.
Oh, yeah. It's all right there.
So we're, you know, get in the ambulance, do whatever we could. We were at the hospital in 5-10 minutes.
Wow.
But these medics here in Lincoln County, they're good medics.
For sure.
They're with patients for a long time, and then they're confident. That's why we put them
And
through
they
that.
have to care about their job. That's a job that you have to be proud of it. You have to care about it and take what you do. You know, yeah, I come across people that are doing a job or they have a career, but just going through the motions. And I think with the medics I've met out here and the people like that, that's your calling
Yeah,
to do that and to help people like that. It's something you truly have to want to do, and people have to respect it for that they're there to do a job and they're good at it and they're going to keep you alive.
yeah, exactly. And that's, but like you said, it's not just a job anymore. You know,
No.
this is, you're a paramedic. You're a paramedic 24 hours a day. You know, this is, a lot of times people really think about this as their identity.
Oh, for sure.
And you know, they're proud of it, which I'm proud of being a paramedic, you know, and I'm glad that they are also.
That's one of my students. She's in Wichita. She just graduated school last week, and she's going full time as a medic.
Yeah.
She's super excited about it, because we mess with her all the time. If we're at like a tournament, we're like, "Stub your toe. Come here, Jesse. What is it?" And she's one. I think I told you before. She's afraid of snake bites. We were teasing her. We're like, "Well, you're going to have to get past that." Because she's Wichita, where they're at. It's. I would be interested to hear what their times are too, because that area is really spread out.
Yeah.
I was up there visiting them a couple weeks ago, 2 months ago, but she had said something she's always wanted to do. And I think that's so important with that, to have that inspiration. Now, what all kind of new things do you guys have going on? We were talking a little before we started today that you guys had some new stuff going, and
yeah, so
about that.
Yeah, so I mentioned the critical care. So we've got about 2 or 3 medics on each shift that are critical care. And the other cool thing that we're doing is mobile integrated health. I use the initials MIH
Okay.
for this. And what that is that we're doing right now, we have a grant in place from the Rural Community Opioid Response Program. And they gave us a $300,000 grant to do harm reduction for opioids, and to basically study how well we can do harm reduction.
So what does that mean by harm reduction?
Well, what we're doing is we're putting NARCAN out into the community. We have some NARCAN distribution boxes, which are free NARCAN. We have one up in Ellsbury at the City Park. We have one at the Sheriff's Department. And then we have one at the Troy Inn, where anybody can just come by and grab some NARCAN. And I think NARCAN today, because of the opioid crisis, is almost like a fire extinguisher. Everybody should have it, because you never know who's going to be at your house. You never know, who's going to get a hold of what kind of substance.
Well, we've called a couple times, because I live right behind the inn, on people laying down in the grass, just flat out. And that's probably what it is. Because we went to pull out of the house to go somewhere, and there's someone just laying, and had to call. And because you guys are up there a lot.
Yeah.
So them having stuff like that's truly probably life-saving.
It's exactly life-saving.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit of pushback, because, people think, well, they did this to themselves and that, but, they're human beings.
Yeah.
They have addictions. And you're not going to save someone who's dead. So if we have to save them 20 times, 30 times, 40 times, it doesn't matter. The fact is that at some point they may reach out for help.
Yeah.
And they absolutely cannot do that if they're dead.
No, and that's something my eyes have been open to recently with the public speaking, the personal development space. Is I've went and listened to a couple friends speak that I've known later on in life. I didn't know when they were younger, and heard their stories of addiction and the things they went through. And they're some of the greatest human beings on earth that have done some amazing things for amazing people, helping kids, helping families. It's really wild how some people that struggle with addiction, once they get past that, when they apply that to entrepreneurship, are some of the top level. I mean, they transfer all that energy they put into hurting themselves into a positive space. It's quite amazing, and it's really changed my thought process on a lot of that, because I would have been one of those before. Whatever.
Yeah.
One less problem to deal with.
Yeah.
Why are we helping them out? But in the past 6 months, I would say the amount of people I've heard speak on addiction that have turned it around and to become some really life-saving people, it really changes your thought process on that, because you never know what demons people are dealing with, PTSD, whatever it is.
Right.
And it's very easy to get hung up on opioids. I've only had a back injury once, and I could see, I didn't take anything for it, but I could see how someone could get really hung up really fast, because with different injuries like that, the pain, the trauma, that stuff. I had a surgery on my face. They removed, I don't even know what it was called, but there was a little misunderstanding on what I could do. So I was teaching class that night, and when I went to bow, my head went below my heart, and all that busted in there, and my face just started filling.
Oh, no.
I popped my head in the bathroom, looked in the window, went, oh crap, everybody go home. Called my wife. I said, you got to run me back to the doctor.
Yeah.
She took me in. Well, they did a second surgery that day. And then that night I was blacking out from the pain. So I went over to Troy Hospital, and my mom luckily was awake to come watch the kids. My wife took me over there, and they hit me with the hard stuff. I don't remember what it was called. They just told me to watch when I stood up, and everything went away. The pain went away. And I was very thankful to them, because I have a high tolerance for pain. And I mean, I was literally like blacking out from it. It was so bad.
Wow.
And that, I remember talking to my wife when we left. I'm like, I could see how easily someone could get hung up on that, because it made the world go away.
Yeah.
Nothing hurt. So that's amazing that you guys are putting things out there to save these people, because they may go on to cure cancer. They could go on to do something great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so what we're doing is we're starting with this harm reduction, and we're getting NARCAN out into the community, letting people have free NARCAN for the harm reduction. We're also going back and we're seeing people. The sheriff, he's got a vision of no deaths in the prison, or in the jail.
Yeah.
Not the prison, but jail. And we're helping out over in the jail with NARCAN and a drug called buprenorphine.
Okay.
And what that does is, if someone comes into the jail that's been using, they get into the jail and they start to withdraw.
Yeah, I was going to say they have. Yeah, that's got to be ugly.
And it is. It's an ugly, horrible thing. And we go in there with this drug, buprenorphine, and it starts to take a little bit of the edge off of that. And hopefully it helps people kind of come down and a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And it's not such a hard,
when their body, the detox.
The detox is not as bad. And then we hope to kind of use that also with alcohol and benzodiazepines and stuff.
That's what I was just going to ask about the alcohol, because I think a lot of people, they should just quit. It's not always that easy.
Right.
I've had family members that ended up hospitalized because they took a new medication and they stopped drinking. They didn't realize how bad their alcoholism had gotten, but they ended up in the hospital from stopping alcohol and it wasn't like I'm going to sober up thing. It was, hey, the doctor said, hey, this medicine, you can't have alcohol in it. Okay, cool. I won't drink alcohol. Their body shut down.
Yeah.
Because they didn't realize it, because they've been a lifelong thing of having alcohol. Okay, doctor said I can't have it. I'm going to stop. And it's ugly. And it's not as easy as just stopping.
Right.
And that's great if there is something that can help ease them down, because maybe that's what they need to come back
Yep.
from that. And man, having them at the hospital or at the jail where the guards are having to deal with that type of stuff. I mean, that's got to be
And that's what we hope,
huge.
is that we can take a little bit of the pressure off of the guards watching that kind of withdrawal happen. And I don't know. I think it's proven to be pretty effective. I'm working with some people in the jail right now,
Awesome.
and they're doing really well.
Well, it's great that Lincoln County is being proactive on it too. It seems like there's a lot of cases in life where everybody just wants to, what can we do afterwards? Okay, so do we just lock everybody up that has a drug addiction problem? Do we just keep burying them if they're ODing? Like what can we do to be proactive to that situation? It sounds like that's the stance you guys are taking on that.
That's exactly right. Lincoln County has a bad drug problem.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
I don't know that everybody understands just how much fentanyl is in everything. We run across people who are using meth that were waking up with NARCAN, and they swear, "Oh, I only do meth. I don't do opioids." No, the fentanyl is in the meth.
Yeah.
Everything is laced with fentanyl now.
That's what I've heard. There's a couple different podcasts I listen to, and one of them was talking about how you can't even, for people that maybe were recreational with stuff, they can't do it. They can't, because fentanyl's in everything. It's got these guys that would maybe toil around with different substances for mind-altering purposes, are saying they fentanyl's in everything and it's killing so many people that they can't touch it.
Right.
They have to stay away from it. And it is completely wild at how much of it is out there and what truly a problem it is. I mean, I deal with a lot of teens and everything at the martial arts school, and I hear about the stuff at the teenage level that just baffles me. I mean, I remember kids sneaking into the bathroom to smoke cigarettes, or somebody would sell some weed at school when I was in high school. And the stuff these kids are seeing and dealing with now, it's a whole new world.
I mean, my kids are grown now. I don't have teens anymore, but it's different. It's a different time.
Oh, completely. It's mind blowing, some of the stuff that we'll talk about, and how just just so casual. And I'm like, hold up, what?
Right.
Like that. Oh yeah. And the amount of that stuff that's floating around, and you don't know who's going to get it. And you've got teens out there that may be experimenting, or maybe in a room where, there's something like that going on. It could kill them. Right. It's not like it's, they're going to try something and not like it. They could just be dead.
That's just it. I had somebody ask me the other day about, weed, and, isn't weed like a gateway drug? And it's like, the reason that weed is a gateway drug is because you have to go to a dealer.
Yes.
If you could just go get pharmaceutical grade weed, it's, at a dispensary, it's probably fine. I don't know. I'm not making any judgments, but
my parents are 80 years old. My mom called me the other day. She's having lower back pain from her back, and she wanted me to, a friend of mine makes THC drops. Yeah. And she was like, can I do something like that? And my mom, I would venture to say my mom never smoked weed in the 60s. My dad's 82. We had to laugh. He was doing some cancer treatment, and we see his charts, and it showed he had THC in his system. And I had talks with him. Like, he ran with the hippies in the 60s. Yeah. That was his thing. He was part of that generation, but he didn't like weed. He never liked the smell of it. I've never messed with the stuff, but I do CBD drops for anxiety. The stuff, I think there's a lot coming out that it's not the bad thing that, like, I'm 42, my generation was raised with, that just dumb stoners do it. I think there's a lot of benefits. And like you said, the gateway is they go to this guy, well, then they lace the pot with something. Yeah. And so now then they're doing something harder. They're around that environment. Yeah. Yeah.
And now they're in that environment, and it's getting laced with something. And then it's like, oh, well, here, try this.
Yes.
If you like this, then try this. And, why would a dealer lace something like marijuana or meth with fentanyl? Because it makes you feel really good.
And it gets you way more addicted too. Return clientele.
There you go. It's a return clientele. But there's no, none of these dealers are pharmacists.
No.
So So they're not, you don't know how much of any of this stuff is in it. And that's why we run the overdoses.
Yeah.
It's because people, they quit for a while and then they try to do the same amount
Yeah.
and they overdose.
It's a crazy world. And like you said, they never know what they're getting. They never know what's in it. And I agree. I know a lot of very successful adults. People are billionaires, and they'll tell you that they use marijuana for those purposes, but it's correct grade. There's a lot of science into it now, different things like that. But when you're just getting stuff off the street, you don't know what you're getting.
No.
It's quite wild, the cartridges and stuff that people are selling. You don't know what's in those. They're making them in their basement. It's really scary stuff.
It is. It is. And when we go out on overdoses, sometimes we'll find fake Prozac or fake Xanax. It's not Xanax. They have presses in their basement to make it look like it's a Xanax, and
that's
not, so
wild and super scary. I've heard too that sometimes when you guys go on those overdoses, I don't remember who it was. Someone I knew, it was a medic, that sometimes you guys have to be careful too, because when you bring them back, they're angry. Like they were euphoric and high, and they don't realize they're dying. And then you guys bring them back. So then that takes a whole new risk level to what you guys are doing. So again, that's why I thought the Narcan's a great idea, because maybe that's going to put you guys in a safer position too.
Yeah.
Put all your people out there.
Yeah. And actually we've been watching the trends, and as we put more Narcan out into public, we're finding that we're running less overdoses. We're not running as many as we used to. And I think that people are using it. Unfortunately, we don't know if they're getting help.
For sure.
When we go, we try to get them help. We get them resources, that kind of thing. Whether they use it or not is up to them.
Yeah.
But hopefully people are saving each other's lives.
Well, at least if it's diminishing the amount of calls, somebody's getting help. They're not dying. I mean, it kind of makes sense too. Like when I was in school, the big push was for I went to Fort Zumwalt North. We were called Fertile Fort. There's so many teen pregnancies. Like it was, there's a famous clip that everybody shares from high school still. Not Leno, the other guy, the Air Nighttime show. Not J-Lo's.
Fallon or Fallon?
No, it was before him. This is that old, but he called us Fertile Fort on the show. They were talking about it, doing a skit, and that was a big joke. So they were giving out condoms, and that was the big talk. Well, it's like, okay, well, we have people dying of addiction. Why wouldn't Narcan? It seems logical to me.
Yeah.
And if it's decreasing your guys' calls, it's putting you in a safer place, and then hopefully they're able to get the help. I mean, that's really all you can do.
Right. And that's what we're doing. Is we've got peer support specialists on our team now, and we have community health workers, community paramedics. So we're putting together a really good team.
That's amazing.
And it's not just reacting to 911 calls. We're really being proactive to get out in the community. Then we're going to just kind of roll this into going out and seeing people that are having medical problems like diabetics or congestive heart failure patients that we can maybe go see on a weekly or daily basis while they come out of the hospital, or help educate them rather than, like you said, reacting, rather than going when they're at their sickest at 3 a.m. and they're, and they're dying. Maybe we can help them at 2:00 in the afternoon and go through their medication list and weigh them and take their blood sugar. And
so many people, when they come home with something like that, they may not have the insurance, or they may not have the money to have a nurse come in every day.
Right.
So they just get worse and worse until you guys get the call.
Exactly.
So doing something like that, again, proactive, and it's a huge help to the community, because there's a lot of people that just don't know what they're doing. My dad's had different surgeries, and he declined his rehab and different things because he knew what he was doing. Next thing you know, I'm getting a call from medics, and the social worker was at his house going, hey, we're having to take him into the hospital. They're not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I had to put him in a rehab place, but he was upset because it was a retirement home.
Right.
And he was like, you're going to leave me here. I'm like, I ain't going to leave you here. They'll throw you out. You're annoying. Sure enough, he ended up getting out 2 days early because the girls were like, we can't deal with this. For real, they called us like, just come get him. He's good enough. We're done with him. I'm like, okay. Because he was just being a total grump. But he wasn't doing what he's supposed to. And I mean, we didn't know any better. They had told us that they were doing what they're supposed to. So there's a lot of people that just can't, they just don't know what they're doing with it.
Right. And not just in that, there's a lot of health illiteracy.
Yes.
And there's people that just don't understand. I can't tell you how many times I've been to somebody's house and they're complaining. I went to Troy Hospital and they gave me a prescription, but now my stomach still hurts. You're like, did you fill this prescription? Well, no.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just why?
I've noticed with the elderly, did you eat today?
Did you eat?
Did you drink water? My dad's bad about that. I'll be on the phone with him and he'll be, well, Matthew's working real hard. Yep, I'm him. I know. And he'll go out. I'm like, and everybody was like, I think he's got dementia. I'm like, did you eat or drink anything today? Nah, I ain't hungry today. You need to eat food. What do you want? And I'll go pick him up food, or I'll be like, you need to go chug a big glass of water, because with his medication, it reacts poorly, and it makes him, I could tell, because he'll call me and he'll forget what we're talking about. And all it is food and water, because the medication's doing its job, and he'll take those. He's pretty good about those, or he might mix it up a little, but I can tell when he's off because of the way he reacts, but because he doesn't understand it. Like, it says you got to take it with food and water. You have to actually do that.
Right.
That's yeah. And then the filling the prescription. Well, I went to the doctor. They told me to take this and A, B, C, and it's all been, I still don't feel any better. Oh, well, how's that? I haven't taken those.
Right.
My mom called me the other day. My back hurts. I need some Dones. We took her to the Dones. She's like, my back's still hurting. I'm like, well, how's the Dones doing? Oh, it's got too much aspirin in it. I haven't taken it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're probably not going to feel any better just because you have the bottle.
Yeah, we had a couple medics one day that buy like groceries for an elderly gentleman. He had lost his wife a week or so before, and he was kind of lost.
Yeah.
And the medics went out there, and he just hadn't been eaten. And they were able to go out and buy him some food and bring it back to him. So he was.
I've heard
really
a bunch of stories of different things that your staff has done for people like that. I was at a phone call with somebody recently. It was telling me about stuff they're doing for the elderly in the community, because they've had issues where they'll call and it's not really necessary. It's more they want something.
Yeah, a lot of times it's loneliness.
Yes, yeah, and there's a lot of different things where they were talking about stuff they've implemented through LACOA to help people, because it does cut down on calls that you guys get, the things that could be taken care of.
Right.
And stuff that your staff has went over and above for. That's amazing.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
that's good to hear. Because a lot of times these guys they'll do it and they don't really brag about it too much. They'll just go out and do it, make people food, And,
and I've heard a lot of different stories, a lot like that, just different, in general, police officers doing it, different first responders around the community that do things that, people want to hop on Facebook and dog on stuff real quick, but they just don't know what's there.
Right.
But that's awesome that you guys have taken such a proactive approach to so many different things that are really a problem in the community. I think sometimes people want to gloss over it, but we do live in a very peppered community to where there is a lot of different things going on.
Yeah. And we have a great first responder community. The
amazing.
Fire department's awesome. The volunteers, because, when you say the fire department, a lot of people just think Troy.
Yeah.
But remember, there's fire departments up in Silex, Northwest Fire District, the Winfield Fire District.
Yep.
These are all volunteers. Ellsbury, Old Monroe, Huck Point. These are all volunteers. These are guys that are just coming in on their own time. And 2:00 in the morning, medical calls coming out and helping our medics lift patients and stuff.
Oh,
so, I got to, at least give a shout out to those guys that are doing it for no money.
Oh, for sure. They're doing it to help their community. And again, I think people forget that.
Yeah, they do. They forget that. But it's okay. We don't do it for,
No, for sure.
Because, for the thanks, we appreciate our community. We love our community. It's It's
That's why
fantastic.
you guys are all here and do what you do, and it's so amazing. Is there anything else that, that's going on that you guys want to cover?
No, not really. I mean, that's kind of the big stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot of neat stuff, and it's really great that there's that much going on in the community. Now, you said how many ambulances were there?
We have 7 ambulances that we're running 24 hours, 7 days a week.
So what's the projected, like what's coming up for growth? Like you said, they got the new house going to go in.
Right.
New, what'd you call it? So I'll say
Base 6.
Base 6,
Yeah.
a new base. I started to say battalion. I'm like, that's not
Yeah,
right.
new base.
So new base 6 that's going up.
Right.
Like, what are some of the projected things that maybe you guys want to do down the road? Is there more? Isn't there a building somewhere in Moscow Mills that has like a sign that there's, or maybe that's the one up 47 I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's where I'm thinking of, up off W by where, which that's great. They got the gas station and everything going in, and that mart going in out there. That'll be nice.
Yeah,
with
the Dollar General Market or whatever.
yeah, well, and if you guys are putting a base out there, that'll be great because they have something right there where they can get stuff, because those markets are pretty neat.
Yeah, I think there's a Casey's going in there.
Yeah,
So
but Casey's and the Dollar General Market, and then you
Yeah.
guys, I think it goes 1, 2, and then 3, right?
Yeah.
You guys will be right there. That's going to be a nice addition. And then for anyone that's based there, then they've got, because those markets are nice.
Yeah. Plus they get that Casey's pizza.
Yeah, oh, Casey's Pizza. Man, my coach put something up the other day laughing about that. It's trying to stick to your diet. And Casey's Pizzas, it was an adult dancer dancing, and he's like me staring at the Casey's Pizza as it turns, because I won't even get gas there if I'm trying to watch what I eat, because if I do, I'm like, pizza's right through that door.
Right.
I'm like, it's always just sit in the car.
Yeah.
I get it, but no, that'll be great. So what are some projected things that you're looking at?
Yeah, so that's we got that going up. We have an ambulance there now. I don't know if you've seen that little house. That's sitting out there. So we're using that little house as a base now, but soon we'll break ground. That will be a nice new base. Then after that, what we're looking at is possibly a base 7,
Nice.
which will go out towards Hawk Point.
Mm-hmm.
Hawk Point doesn't have like the huge population and a huge call volume, but that's another area that's just difficult to get to.
Well, yeah, it's like right there on that night. You got Warrington's how many miles this way, and Troy's this, it's kind of in a rough spot.
It's in a rough spot. It's a 15-minute drive at code code speed.
Yeah.
But so that's what's projected is the base 7
Nice.
out that way. But that's probably closer to 27, 28.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I figured it'd be a couple years out.
Yeah.
But there's always stuff like that, I would assume, with your job, that you guys are always kind of looking, projecting, and planning stuff in the future, looking at the growth in the county, calls, where stuff's coming out of, and where you guys can probably better service those, cut call times, by having more bases and things around the community.
Yeah, exactly. We use a lot of the numbers from the schools. We kind of watch the trends that are going on at the schools.
And they're going
subdivisions.
crazy.
Yeah.
Subdivisions are going crazy. Holy moly, the subdivisions that are popping up out here. It's wild.
It is. Yeah, we're watching like how Moscow Mills is growing, Winfield's growing,
Moscow
Troy.
Mills seems to be exploding.
Yeah.
Not as many subdivisions out there popping up in Winfield, but man, everywhere in Moscow Mills. I'll tell you what, I know it's not part of Lincoln County, but I was out in Wright City the other day.
Yeah.
They've got some big subdivisions going in out there.
Yeah.
They've got several. That area is getting ready to really take off, because I've had several calls. The painting company wanting us to do work, and I don't want to do any more builders at the moment. But when I was out there the other day, there's several very large name builders that area is getting ready to go nuts.
Yeah, I have an argument all the time with the Warren County chief out there about which one of our counties is going to grow faster.
I think we're definitely growing faster, but I will say that Wright City is getting ready to go. Like between Wright City and Warrington, I mean, there's some big builders put stuff in to where they're going to be. I just don't know if which one will go faster, but I do feel like Lincoln County has grown quite a bit more.
Yeah, I think we've got that 61 coming up north from Wentzville. Wentzville's just so popular.
Well, Wentzville ain't got much longer until they're building so much there at A and 61 now.
Yeah.
That they're kind of running out. Like they're going to have to come this way. That's why it was nice that the new base went in Moscow Mills, because I see that as being the next big, like Moscow Mills and Detroit really exploding.
Right.
Because it's just going to come up 61. And it's already starting to. You could see the subdivisions with Piney Road and everything. Yep. There's so much. It's just kind of working its way north.
Right. It just keeps working its way north, and we're just getting ready for it.
That's awesome.
We've got a good 10-year plan ready to, keep up the pace.
That's great. Now, if people that are watching want to kind of learn more about, whether they want a career, whether they just want to kind of see more what's going on, where's places that they can find that information?
Well, they can,
like the ambulance. Do you guys have a page or?
Yeah. So at www.lcad.net, LCAD.net is our web address. Our headquarters is over near the Troy plant off of Travis and 3rd Street. And I'm always open to having, people come in if they want a career in EMS. I'm always open to talking to people about EMS. I love it so much.
It's awesome.
I'm ready to talk to any kid that wants to have a career. And there's a lot of schools around, St. Charles County's got a school that's, pretty popular. So the one thing is that we do have a shortage of EMTs and paramedics.
Really?
For some reason, even with a bunch of schools in the area, we don't have that many EMTs and paramedics. We used to get probably 50, applications per spot. Now we're lucky if we get 10 or 15.
Wow.
So we're looking for EMTs and paramedics if anybody wants to go to school and do this.
If you want a career, come up there and see you.
Yeah, come up and see me. I would love to talk to anybody.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. And again, like and share. And make sure to support those sponsors, because those sponsors pouring the money into sponsoring this podcast are what keep it going for our community.